So, what is going on, guys? I am Black Ops Amazing. Welcome back to another video where today I have something super interesting that I want to talk about that you can find in Classified. This is to do with T.E.D., and it seems like he may have been built by the scientists over in the Pentagon. If you do enjoy today's video, a little reminder that a like rating would be appreciated if you want to, of course. It's up to you guys, and also make sure you are subscribed if you don't want to miss another zombies video. But getting into this, so if you take a look around Classified, there are tons of Easter eggs that you can find. The Pentagon is obviously the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense, but it seems like all this time the scientists over at 5, and not only them but the people working in the Pentagon, well, they knew all about what was going on around the world with zombies. They knew about the outbreak at Doris, Shinonuma, Verrupt, all of these things that were to do with the Germans, the Nazis, Group 935. The Pentagon had knowledge of all of this. If you look around the facility, there are Easter eggs absolutely everywhere, and I do want to do separate videos talking about some of these because I think they do deserve their own content. But something extremely interesting that you can find is if you come up to this board, there are a few blueprints on it, and this one in particular caught my eye because, as you can see, straight away you might notice a very familiar robot, and that is T.E.D. The bus driver from Transit is on a blueprint in Classified. Now, before this, we knew really nothing about this bus driver. All we knew was that he was very angry. He drove the bus around the transit area, from the bus depot to diner, to the farm, to the power station, then to town, and then back to the bus depot. He just drove around Green Run. We know that he worked for Bloodhound, as it said on his hat, but other than that, we really knew nothing about him. There was speculations about his background and things like that, but T.E.D. was a mysterious character, and rightly so. You wouldn't really think there'd be any interesting information on a robotic bus driver. Transit was set in 2035, so maybe 20 years in the future we are having robotic bus drivers, so really you wouldn't question his background too much. However, in 5, it seems like there's a lot more to him than we thought, and it actually seems that he was made by the scientists here. If we take a look at this blueprint, there are some notes on the side talking about T.E.D. Now, just bear with me, it's really hard to read, it's very blurry, but the first bullet point is request for skin to cover robotic exterior. The test trials have employees recalling in fright at appearance, needs to be more approachable and friendly. The next bullet point says, who programmed it with emotions and why? This needs to be removed before live operations. It then says, early tests reveal that the prototype is behaving inappropriately with employees. It then says behaviors include using explicit language with employees, terrifying employees, kicking employees off the bus, locking bus doors and refusing entry, skipping stops, unwanted opinions, and sarcasm. And then it says bus to be provided by the Colorado facility. So that's really funny. They are everything that we know T.E.D. for. He is very rude. If you knife him, he will eventually kick you off the bus. He'll turn around. He will just randomly insult you. He swears at you. As we've just seen, the scientists at 5 have put a request in to cover his robotic exterior because he was scaring the employees. He didn't look very approachable or friendly. T.E.D. was supposed to look like a real-life human, but underneath he was robotic. He was supposed to have prosthetic skin. He has a voice box. He can do a 360 rotation. They are the little notes on this blueprint. But we know that the version of T.E.D. that we see in Transit, well, because of the explosions that went off from the rockets from Moon, his prosthetic skin has been ripped off and we can see his robotic exterior. He does look quite scary. So before the explosions happened, T.E.D. would have looked much more realistic. And it seems like maybe he was a prototype. They made him for the bus company, Bloodhound Travels, but because of how he was, his attitude, somebody at 5, for some reason, I don't know why, they programmed him with emotions. As you can see on the notes, someone told whoever did that to take those emotions off before live operations. Clearly that didn't happen, and T.E.D. went out to drive the buses with emotions, which is why he's very rude. It seems like he may have been a prototype because at the top of this blueprint it, it says proposed final. So it seems like this guy, the final version of Ted, may have been the final project that was supposed to go out, but instead either Ted was sent out to the bus company before he was fixed, or maybe he was an early prototype and this is the final model that was going to be sent out to all of the buses. So obviously in the future, 20 years from now, the Pentagon are going to start making robotic bus drivers for everyone. I mean, that's just the future, right? But that's extremely interesting, because what we knew of Ted before is that he was first found by Russman at the Broken Arrow facility. Russman stole Ted's bus from Broken Arrow and he then began to drive it around the US until he eventually picked up Stuhlinger, and then they later went on to pick up Malton and Misty at Transit. But as I said, Russman originally got Ted in the transit bus from Broken Arrow's facility, and we learn in Classified that the Pentagon and Broken Arrow were linked. Basically, the Pentagon created Broken Arrow. So maybe they gave this bus to them. Perhaps it wasn't ready to put out to the public. Ted wasn't a final version, maybe he was a prototype. So instead, the Pentagon gave him to Broken Arrow, but Russman stole the bus, hence why we use it in transit. Or maybe it did go out to be used, but somehow it ended up at the Broken Arrow facility. I'm not too sure, but we can finally say where Ted comes from. We have information about his background. It seems like he was made at the Pentagon. As these notes say, Ted behaves inappropriately with the public, which he does. He kicks people off his bus. He will lock the doors and refuse entry. He will also skip stops, and we know that because in transit, he will sometimes go past them, but also he will name the wrong locations. For example, we'll stop at the diner or the farm, and he'll say that we're at the Grand Canyon or the Harp Research Station or places like Hawaii. But also what it doesn't seem to mention on these notes, yes, it does say he has emotions, but we know that Ted can sense what's around him. For example, he knows about the zombies when they got onto his bus. He knows about them attacking him. He makes sarcastic comments about them chasing the bus. He knows about the lava that's running through the town. Clearly by these notes, it tells us that Ted's bus was provided by the Colorado facility, so the bus itself comes from Colorado, but Ted comes from the Pentagon, which is Virginia, and then he ends up in transit, which I'm not exactly sure where the place in Zombies is supposed to be, but the real life place for it, I believe, is Washington. So this guy's been everywhere, but there we go, that is the background of Ted. It's very interesting. This is a really cool Easter egg, and it's nice to know stuff like this. Like I said, there's plenty more Easter eggs in 5 and stuff we can learn about other characters, beings, stuff like that. So if you want to see them, let me know in the comment section below. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest Zombies videos. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and of course I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye, cruel world! Goodbye! Oh, we made it. Consolidated Coach Corp would like to remind you to stay calm in any emergency situations.